Well, they say that records are made to be broken, and that is exactly what Bryce Cotton did yesterday at RAC Arena. 59 points, the highest score of the modern 40-minute era. It was something very, very special. And Derek Rucker, as I welcome you to Moments That Matter, of course we're going to start with Bryce Cotton because that was the moment of the season.
Fantastic, and a great round 10, but capped off by a historic performance in a season full of historic performances. This one topped them all.
Poor James Bateman.
Wow.
Everyone's forgotten about that game a couple of weeks ago.
And that was a great performance as well, but it's in the past now, and when you get passed by an all-time great, an icon, it's just, it was something memorable.
It's a hard one to try and, I mean, perfect is such a precise word, isn't it? But was Bryce's game almost the perfect game yesterday?
Jack, it came as close to the ideal performance as I've ever seen in the NBL. I saw Shane Hill go for 61. I saw Leonard Copeland go for high 40s and Andrew Gaze get in the 50s and Leroy Loggins in the 50s. But this one, in only 40 minutes to go for 59 points, he was 18 of 28 from the field, 11 of 13 from the 2, 7 of 15 from the three-point line, and 16 of 17 from the free throw line. A tremendously balanced offensive performance, and he had 7 dimes.
That's the thing. That's why I asked.
He had 59 and 7. I might go on record right now as saying that is the greatest offensive game in NBL history. Tremendous. And it was a game they needed. Not only was it a home game, but he was going against Parker Jackson Cartwright. And you just wonder what motivation was there for Bryce? What really got him going? What triggered him to that all-time great performance? The guy is just a legend. I'm a fan. I know how much you love him and admire what he does. And we have nothing but praise and admiration.
And just on your comment too, it might have been the greatest offensive game we've seen. I mean, there's no recency bias here. You've been here since '91, so you've seen a lot come and go. Breaks James Crawford's record for an individual game for the Wildcats, which was 57 in 1987, I want to say off the top of my head. It was an inspired performance for a Perth team that went in without Keanu Pinder. And, I mean, I guess it would be impossible to not, if you're a teammate of Bryce's, to not follow along with him when that's happening.
Well, they obviously took his lead, and they all grew in confidence. All 5 Perth starters scored in double figures yesterday. So while Bryce was outstanding, it wasn't like he was the Lone Ranger. All those guys did what was required on the day. But the 59, it's what's next? What's next for the league? And you talk about, there was a lull, let's be honest. Around 5, around 6, around round 7, things got a little bit patchy. Play wasn't great. But over the past 3 rounds and coming out of this FIBA break, Jack, what a round, what a performance. And it's, for guys like me whose life is the NBL, it gives you chills. It makes you appreciate greatness and just how fortunate we are to have Bryce Cotton in this league.
It makes the MVP conversation red hot. I mean, it's been red hot all season, but Bryce missed a few games through injury. He's well and truly back now.
Well, let's talk about another gentleman in that game, Parker Jackson Cartwright, who is in the MVP conversation. In fact, this morning it came out on the NBL app that he actually is leading the race. But Parker was outstanding. 34 points, 10 dimes. They didn't lose because he was bad. They just got outdone by Bryce Cotton.
Now, I don't want to be negative Nancy and take anything away from what happened yesterday, and I won't. But just a recurring theme that we've spoken about a lot on this show that we shouldn't walk past before we finish talking about the Wildcats game. Yes, they won, but they still let through 112. Are you seeing anything at the defensive end of the floor that's improved since we've been talking about this in about round 5 or 6?
Well, we know we have the summer shootout coming, and I said publicly that Perth would be one of the teams I targeted. And yesterday we saw exactly why. They are porous on the defensive end. It doesn't mean that they can't win a lot of games or they won't feature in the postseason. It just makes it really hard to win the championship when you cannot defend. 112 points at home is a lot. But it's a crazy league. Maybe this is the year that we get a champion who doesn't position themselves in the top 4 defensively. Maybe this year is an outlier. Maybe John really is like, Let's go and let them try and catch us. We have enough offensive firepower. We're not constructed to be a defensive-minded team and good on that end. So let's go for it on the offensive end and see if we can just get buckets and make them catch us.
Could be a lot of fun if that's the case. And keep watching the Wildcats. You and I were at John Cain Arena yesterday in Melbourne. The moments that matter, we talk about the moments. The Jalen Adams moment late in the game where he was talking to Brian Goorjian, he walks the ball up the floor but didn't get it over halfway within the allocated 8 seconds. At the stage of the game that it was, that was craziness.
Well, Jack, it's a tie game at 98 all. Melbourne United miss a shot attempt, and the Kings secure the rebound. Adams gets it with 33 on the clock. He's looking at Brian Goorjian like he wants Goorjian to call a timeout. This isn't the G League. This isn't the NBA.
No.
You can't do that. But Adams, while he's conversing with Brian Goorjian, doesn't push the ball up the court. And just as he's about to cross half court, I see that shot clock tick over to 15. And I called it. I said, that's 8 seconds. It was a critical moment that it more than mattered. It was a chance for Sydney to climb the ladder and narrow that gap between them and Melbourne United. It didn't happen. Consequently, Melbourne United got the ball back. Shea Haley hit a free throw. Melbourne United go on to win that game, but a brutal mistake and one that Jalen Adams will have to overcome quickly, but I'm sure he feels awful.
So then there's that. There was Sean Bruce's attempted three, which debate can rage about whether that was the right shot or the right person to take that shot. Sean Bruce, for what it's worth, has knocked down some big shots in his career. And then a tough fall-away jumper from the corner from Liafa to try and tie the game up and Sydney lose. Did they mismanage the last minute of that game?
Well, by mismanage, I think we need to look at the concept of time in both those possessions. The one where Sean Bruce misses a shot, Xavier Cooks comes down, he's pushing the ball, but I never felt like the Kings were into any type of composed rhythm in getting that shot attempt. Xavier penetrates, he throws a rush pass to Bruce. Bruce doesn't really get it in rhythm and misses the shot. He felt it was good, but it was just off a little bit. And the final possession, Jack, when they're down 3 and they're looking for a 3, with less time on the clock, I thought that shot attempt was actually poor. I didn't like the lineup that was on the floor. I didn't like the shot attempt from Liafa. Liafa's a guy that's been struggling all season to shoot the basketball. He was 0 of 5 before taking that shot. I just didn't understand why he was on the floor.
Why was Kawhi Noy not on the floor?
I have no idea. And during the call, Andrew Gaze and I wanted Cam Oliver, who was feeling good, and a guy that can get his shot off in limited space, in limited time. And of course, Kawhi Noy, someone who lives for those types of moments. He's so confident in himself. You know he wanted that basketball. So I didn't like the personnel. Were Sydney themselves happy with the shot they got? We don't know, but I would presume not. And eventually I felt they kind of let Melbourne United off the hook by not really challenging them with their best personnel in that final possession.
In the first half, I thought we were going to see a repeat of Chris Goulding's heroics from a few weeks ago again. Went and had a look at the numbers this morning. In his last 4 games, excluding the 2 Boomers games where he had 19 three-point makes, he's 23 of 50 from outside in his last 4 games. He's playing with a level of confidence, Ruck, that I'm sure you had at various stages during your career where it almost feels like you can't miss and there's no such thing as a shot that you won't take.
And you're really not even acknowledging the defense. All you're trying to do is get to space, and you know if you get space and time, you can raise up. And it's a pretty good chance that the ball is going to go through the bucket. As you said, he's shooting that ball in recent times at 46% from outside the three-point line. But also, Melbourne United are running really crisp sets for him to get shots. So some credit goes to his teammates. They're setting good screens. Shaley and Deli are doing a really good job of delivering the ball to him. And then Chris is taking care of the rest. Now, where does he sit in the MVP race?
That's an interesting question.
You know, you're looking at the MVP candidates right now. Cotton, PJC. I'd even have Jack White in there. Chris Goulding. These are guys that significantly impact basketball games. And he'll need to pick it up, but Xavier Cooks is probably just behind that pack in the next tier.
Didn't have a great weekend, did he? Yeah.
Didn't have a great weekend. Even the week before the FIBA break, some of his offensive numbers are starting to tail off a little bit. But Chris Goulding right now is playing sensational basketball at the age of 36. The downside is we saw him suffer a calf complaint late in that game yesterday.
Watch this space as we go to record Monday morning. We haven't heard anything yet from Melbourne United. He did say cramp at the time during the game, but scans will no doubt tell a little bit of a story. Saturday night, also at John Cain Arena, might be the Owen Foxwell game. It's where he got his opportunities. He's given us a lot of really nice little flashes, particularly across the last 2 seasons, but 22, 5 and 7 on Saturday night. He was playing so well that he kept Derek Walton Jr. off the floor.
Yeah, it was a very strange one to see Derek Walton Jr. not play much at all after the first quarter, and we know he's come back from a hamstring injury. I'm not sure if there was some consideration that maybe he's not ready, but the way Foxwell was playing, he is going to be a threat for the rest of the season for the minutes that Derek Walton Jr. and Nathan Sobey both normally take. And if you look at Nathan Sobey's performance, we already discussed Derek Walton Jr., Sobey wasn't very good in that game on Saturday night, and the team functioned much better with Owen Foxwell out there. Now let's look at Foxwell. This is a guy that plays the point guard position, seems to take great pride in making others better. He can score the basketball. He shoots it really well from the three. Jack, this is a guy I believe, similar to Sean McDonald down in Tasmania, he can be your starting point guard in a couple of years. So I think it's imperative right now that the Phoenix continue to feed him minutes, nurture this confidence that he's starting to show, because it is very hard in this league to find high-quality local point guards, and Foxwell is showing the potential to be just that.
It's an interesting one, I guess, with Josh King coming in as the new coach. It sounds like a disclaimer for an insurance company, but past performance is not always a reliable indicator of future performance. Josh King's come in and has no regard for CVs and no regard for reputation. He's making substitutions based on what he thinks he needs to do to win the game. And that meant, as I say, that Walton Jr. and Sobey weren't out there at critical moments.
And another player who got good minutes the other day and I thought did a really good job, and again, I will maintain his value in our league, was Joe Wieskamp.
Yes.
He went from a DNP CD before the FIBA break to having a good impact on the game the other day. This is a guy who's athletic. He'll pretty much go out and do what is asked of him. To come back from getting a DNP shows that he has a significant amount of resilience. He's played around the world. He's been in the G League where he's productive. And I like his athleticism. I like the pop that he plays with. Sure, he's not going to be an MVP or an all-NBL first-team type player. But when you're trying to build out a roster with good quality players, I think he's serviceable.
Something's building here with the Phoenix, I think. That's a great win over Illawarra, who are one of the best teams in the competition. Just bookmark this conversation, I think. We'll come back to it early in the new year, but I like what I'm seeing from the Phoenix. Tasmania have won their last couple. No coincidence that they're 2-0 since Sean McDonald's come back into this team.
He brings a rhythm and a direction to that team, and also with a group that doesn't shoot the ball particularly well this season from the perimeter, he gives you a legitimate outside threat, which opens up the game for a lot of other players. Now, Anthony Drimmick was outstanding in Adelaide. He did a great job in his return to Adelaide and for his milestone game. Yeah. So Drimmick was very, very good, and they did it without Jordan Crawford. But again, Tasmania continued to build success on the back of their defensive performance. And, you know, we talked about the summer shootout earlier. I can't believe teams selected Tasmania.
Goodness, what are they thinking?
They're going to shut you down. Just put an X through those two teams that are going down to Tasmania to try and win that summer shootout. You're not getting it done. They are very, very good. And the thing I like about Tasmania, it doesn't matter who Scott Roth plays. They still get it done as a team on the defensive end.
And the other aspect of this game and for Tasmania this season, like, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, let's be honest, and I think it still will be, but Will Magnay's season, he is now well and truly, I think, Ruck, taking his mantle as one of the premier big men, local or international, in this competition.
He is so efficient, and his net rating continues to climb. When he is on the floor, he's one of the top 3 to 5 players in the league in terms of impacting the scoreboard in the right direction for your team. He continues to protect the rim. If he stays healthy, Jack, and Tasmania have a bunch of home games to come, I don't think they're going to be losing a lot of those home games. What looked like a dire situation just a month ago has significantly turned in just 2 to 3 rounds, and I think they're a threat. I think they're a real play-in possibility now.
You do not want to get them in a play-in, particularly at My State Bank Arena. If it's 5th versus 6th and Tasmania finish 5th, that's tough.
You're getting an L. I can guarantee you that right now. You go down there in mid to late February when the play-in game will occur, and that is going to be a wicked place to try and get a victory.
Cairns on Friday night, it's a bit of a struggle for the Taipans at the moment, no question about that. They've still got some players that they need to get access to, but Taran Armstrong, the shining light. Now, fingers crossed, I think we all say this as Australian basketball fans, that Taran can be healthy for the rest of the season. 28 points. There are a lot of times during that game, Ruck, that he looked like he was the best player on the floor.
He's so confident, isn't he? And he's shooting the ball really well. And I like the direction he provides. He's athletic, he's smart, he passes well, and he's scoring. He is a far better scorer than I thought he would be. And Cairns as a unit, they could feel somewhat positive about what they're doing. I didn't think there was any disgrace in that game and the way they lost that game to Sydney. And look, they need to get more consistent performances from Rob Edwards, but I think he has the capability to finish strong for the rest of the season. Tanner Groves has a ways to go physically. Let's hope the injury to Sam Wardenberg isn't that severe and he can continue to play. But I still maintain that some victories are coming down the road for Cairns.
Just got to bank home games.
Yeah.
That's the thing for Cairns. On the road could be a challenge with what's going on. Got to win at the crib.
Got to win at home. And realistically, I think they've squandered 3 good chances at home, which would have given them 6 or 7 victories already.
The thumbs up and thumbs down, the good and the bad from the weekend. Hit us with a good one.
This is obvious. This is obvious. Bryce Cotton. Like, all thumbs in the studio go up because, you know, I'm going to go home. I've already watched the game once. I'm going to go home and watch it again because you don't see this often. And anyone who hasn't had a good look at it, go look at it because Bryce was amazing. And every year, Bryce he doesn't have that hate following that like a Chris Goulding has.
No.
But there are people that hate the Perth Wildcats and don't want Bryce to do well. It's very hard, no matter how you feel about Bryce, not to watch that game and be like, we're so blessed to have him in our league.
I, as a kid, grew up watching Andrew Gaze, Shane Heal, Leonard Copeland, yourself, Leroy Loggins, the greats of the league. I'm not here to debate about who ranks where. What I will say to all basketball fans is enjoy what we are witnessing right now because this is greatness from Bryce Cotton.
It is, and we've seen him go on runs, and full credit to John Reilly for letting Bryce go and cook.
Yep.
And that's the advantage sometimes of having a guy who has cooked himself as your coach. He understands the significance, what it does for the crowd, what it does for the supporters, what it does for his teammates to rally around this brilliant moment in Perth Wildcats history and celebrate it as a group.
Well, you pinched my thumbs up, and I thought you would, so I did come with a plan B just in case. My thumbs up is to Alex Toohey. Friday night and Sunday, comes in the third quarter and changed the game in both situations. I will happily argue that Sydney wouldn't have got back as close as they got to in the end had it have not been for Alex Toohey in the third quarter. And Friday night, they just needed a lift in Cairns, and it was the young guy who came in and did the job.
He should be playing more consistent minutes on a regular basis, and I know Sydney have a lot of problems with trying to get their lineups right and trying to find a good defensive team that can also perform well on the offensive end. We've chronicled these struggles all season long, but I think Toohey must factor into that equation more prominently.
Thumbs down?
The New Zealand Breakers, they get the thumbs down.
Again. Get your own.
I'm reading your mind. The New Zealand Breakers, tough one, but let's be clear. The wheels are clearly falling off, and they've got to rally now. They've got some injury concerns. They'll get back to New Zealand. They have the Sydney Kings twice at home over the next few rounds. Those are must-win games just to kind of rebuild their momentum and get some cohesion with Taco. Now, we saw him go off yesterday. We don't know the severity of his injury, but whether he's in the lineup or not in it, they've got to find a way now just to win games and reestablish themselves back in the league.
Is it going to work? I mean, let's be totally honest here.
With Taco, you mean?
Is it going to work?
We haven't seen a guy of that sides have success in our league, and maybe he is the one that reverses the trend. But has he been positively impactful in his short stint so far? Well, he's provided some highlights, but whether that's impacted the team's winning chances, I'm not sure. I hope that he's able to play further so that we can get a true time sample to evaluate him, because he is an exciting prospect. Like, everyone loves to see a 7'6" guy get out there and perform. It is a true anomaly. However, you know who else loves seeing 7'6" guys? A lot of teams that like to run pick and roll.
Yep.
That's what they want to see. And right now, I'm just not sure if he's suitable for that type of stuff in our league.
Well, I have to go to plan B for my thumbs down as well, which is the Adelaide 36ers.
Oof.
Not a great performance at home. I know that they didn't have Montrezl Harrell and Kendrick Davis, and I think we saw how important both of those guys were on Saturday night. But DJ had a rough night shooting the ball. I still thought, even without Montrez and Kendrick, that they would still win that game, taking nothing away from Tasmania. But that was a disappointing performance, I thought.
Well, that win was probably going to be predicated on a good shooting performance from DJ. He didn't get it, and I thought he had some good looks that just didn't go his way, and they didn't have enough guys step up. Adelaide just were shut down by the Tasmanian defense, as we mentioned before, but I agree with you. I tipped them to win that game at home, and now they're in a situation where they travel to Brisbane for the Bullets on Friday night.
Have to win that. No ifs, buts, or maybes. They've got to win that game.
It's not going to be an easy one, because Brisbane, while they're not great, I think they have a little bit of belief, and that belief will be buoyed by the fact that Adelaide will be without Davis and Harrell, and they think now is a chance for them to get on the run. So many teams clinging on to just little threads of hope and optimism in the desire to climb up that ladder, because it's so hard to get victories.
Well, we have well and truly passed the halfway mark of the season now. Round 11 starts on Thursday, a couple of very interesting games, and then Friday night in Brisbane is going to be a clinker as well. Derek, great to see you in person.
Great to be here, Jack.
Bryce, we love you. You're the benchmark. Catch you next week on Moments That Mattered.